me.
Hi, excuse me.
Oh, hey,
Are you Miss
Nicole.
Wells?
Yeah, hi. I'm Miss Wells.
Nice to meet you.
Hey. What are you here for? How
I
can I
have
help
an
you?
English paper and
Okay.
I'm really having a lot of trouble on it. Can you help me?
Totally. Come sit down. No stress. Okay. It'll
We'll work
be
it
okay.
out.
Yeah. I just ran into the table. Okay. So, can you first, like, before we even look at your paper,
Yeah.
can you just tell me about the assignment? Like, what is it that you're supposed to do?
Well, we're supposed to write a paper on how unicorns are real.
Okay.
And how they exist and how they live in Narnia.
Okay.
And that's like in the green, like I said.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your purpose then is to
Prove unicorns are
okay.
real.
So it's like an argument.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you're making an argument, like what is it that you need to use to help like prove your point?
Well, you need like supporting evidence.
Okay, great. So tell me where you're at with the paper right now. Like where are you in the process?
I wrote my rough draft and
Okay.
I had an outline.
Okay.
But I'm not sure if I've really followed it, and my thesis I don't think is really clear. And
Okay.
I'm dyslexic, so some of the
Okay.
words are kind of mixed matched, and I'm just really confused. I have colors, to correct my paper in and
Okay.
to add stuff in with. And
Okay.
I'm just excited about
So
learning.
we have a lot of stuff. Thank you for letting me know that about the dyslexia. Like
Yeah.
that's super helpful information for me to know. So that's awesome that you brought it up. So let's start with, tell me what your argument is. Like what is it that you are trying to prove in this paper?
Unicorns are real and they live at Mercy in Narnia.
Okay, so let's look at, tell me where your thesis statement is.
It's the first sentence.
Okay.
But I don't think that's right.
Well, let's talk about that. So let's look at what your thesis statement is. So you're saying unicorns are real, they live at Mercy. So okay, so that's good because that's an argument. So I think your thesis is okay. And so you're not sure about putting it at the beginning of the paragraph, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about like what would be the benefit of putting it at the beginning of the paragraph?
But people know what I'm trying to say through the paper.
Right, so that is good to tell them. But when you start reading, like if I looked at this, I read that first sentence and it's sort of like, as a reader, I'm like, whoa, where did unicorns come from? And like, what's happening? So as a reader, sometimes it helps me know more about what's happening if you can introduce, like, tell me how you even get to that topic.
Okay.
So maybe start with something before that.
So maybe some history about unicorns
Yeah.
and where they came from and how the
Yeah.
unicorn babies come
So
about.
definitely. So some context is always good. You don't want to go crazy with context because then your reader might be like, what's happening here? And the other thing you might want to do for your reader, like when you start reading something, if it's not grabbing your attention right away, what do?
I don't read it 'cause it's boring.
Right. So you want to like try to make your introduction exciting for your reader.
Okay.
So there's a couple of different ways you can do that. You could, definitely take some notes. That's always a good idea. When you want to get someone interested in a paper, you can start with, I think you've heard probably at Mercy, you could start with a quote.
A quote, okay.
Okay.
That's so good.
Sometimes that can be a little bit random too, because then it's like, why is this quote here? So if you do a quote, it helps your reader if you can like contextualize and explain that quote.
Okay, so explain my quote.
Yes. And then another technique that you can use, you could start with like a little story.
I love stories.
Yeah, so stories are great. So you could start with an anecdote that relates to unicorns to get your reader into your topic.
I love stories and unicorns. It's great.
You can also start with like a really like shocking statement, or you can also start with an image, like paint the picture for the reader of something. So you have different options.
Yeah.
And so whatever you choose works for you is awesome. So just you have options.
This has been really helpful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm
And
excited about learning now.
how do you feel? Do you feel better? Like, what's your stress level now?
I think I'm gonna A on this paper.
Okay, good. So, your plan of action then, what's your plan?
I'm going to go home and then look up some interesting facts about my unicorns.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna fix my introduction. I'm gonna use some of the tips you helped me with.
Okay.
Then I'm gonna, just look around and have my mom, proofread, make sure that everything makes sense.
Okay.
I'm gonna read it out loud.
Good. And maybe have your mom read it out loud and you listen.
Yeah.
And then don't let her correct anything. But if she finds something that's confusing, just tell her to tell you that she's confused. But don't let her fix it, because then it's not necessarily your words. And that's
Yeah.
what you want, right?
Yeah.
So it's definitely cool to use your parents as an audience, but don't let them like take over.
Of course, my parents are controlling, so
Yeah.
it's good that I'm in control for once.
Yes, good, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Empowerment.
So do you want to make another appointment then to come back in like maybe a week and we can see where you're at?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Same time next week.
That sounds good.
Thank
okay.
you so much.
You're welcome. Bye, Nicole.
Bye.
Okay, the end.